Hey everybody, Max Rich here, and that was a little bit of me noodling around on an A major blues scale. That is what we are talking about today. Many players and many of my students, I mean everyone likes playing the blues, or at least a lot of us like playing the blues, and most of us, when we learn how to play guitar and learn how to play the blues, and learn how to improvise and stuff, many of us use the standard A minor blues scale. Right? And that's a great place to start, but that's not the be-all end-all, especially if you're trying to advance your blues playing. You know, if you listen to like modern blues players or like blues players of the past, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eric Clapton, Joe Bonamassa, all these guys, they do use that minor sound. Yes, they do, but that's not all they use, right? A lot of what they use is a major blues scale, right? And today I want to talk about the major blues scale. But before I do, I would kindly ask that if you find these videos helpful, please hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell so you get one of my new videos when it comes out, and take a look at the tab for this lesson. It is on maxrichmusic.com. And there you can find the tabs, you can find a bunch of the weekly newsletters, which I encourage you to sign up for because they're free and they have a ton of great information in them. But anyway, back to the lesson. So, unlike this minor blues scale, today we're going to be talking about the A major blues scale, right? And that scale has a much different sound. It's not that minor sound. And the best blues players tend to use that scale very often, right? If you think about like the beginning of Texas Flood, if you think about like a lot of the classic blues sound is actually a major blues scale, a major pentatonic scale. And the scale itself varies quite dramatically from the minor blues. If you're thinking about A, the root note, right? A would be the 1. If you're playing the minor, you're playing A, C, D, E, G. And if you map that out in scale degrees, that would be like 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, right? Now that's all well and good, like I said, you can use that, right? But a lot of us get stuck there and then we're like, I don't know what to do, I want more cool sounds, I want cooler licks, how do I get those? Well, instead of playing 1, flat 3, 4, 5, 7, as you go about trying to navigate the blues, incorporate these. A, B, C sharp, E, F sharp. That is the major pentatonic scale, the A major pentatonic scale. That corresponds to 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. And then if you want to keep going, 1, 2, 3. That is a very common scale. And you could play that scale, like all pentatonic boxes, there's 5 shapes of that scale, right? So this would be, I guess you can call this shape 1. This is where we're starting on the root note, right? Shape 2 would be somewhere, you know, you'd start on the 2nd note. Shape 3 would start on the 3rd note. Shape 4 would start on the 5 of the scale, which would be the 4th note of the pentatonic scale. And then the last shape would start on the F sharp, which would be the 6th of the scale. Now the interesting thing about that one, let's go down here for the F sharp, is that that is the minor pentatonic shape that you know. Right? So you know that shape, we just talked about it up here. But those notes don't correspond to A major, because A major, for example, has a C sharp, right? That scale The A minor pentatonic scale does not have a C sharp. It's got a C natural. So if we want to have that major sound and yet we still want to use this box that we like to use, right? There's nothing wrong with using that box, like I'm telling you. Instead of playing it here, put your pinky on the root note, on A, and that puts you right in position to play that same familiar shape, except now you're getting a major blues sound. And that will give you that major blues sound as opposed to... Now, like I said, there is nothing wrong with that. And in fact, I encourage you to use that. However, I want you to mix the two because that's where a lot of the flavor happens in the blues. You play a major lick and then you answer it with a minor lick. Right, that kind of a thing, or vice versa. You start with a minor, then you can answer with a major, right? So that is one of the key elements of playing a major blues. When you're playing an A7 chord, or you're doing something that type of a thing, right? You're playing essentially a major blues. You're playing over an A7 chord, right? That dominant 7 chord, that A7, has a C sharp in it. That's a major, right? So use that major scale. Or, conversely, this one. Alright, so right now I'm going to show you a couple licks that use this version of the scale. So, here's lick 1. It's a very simple, very standard sounding blues lick, but it's probably one you don't play because it doesn't fit in your that box. And it doesn't even necessarily fit in the major version of that box. Right? Because a lot of these boxes have licks that are unique to their specific fingering because that's how this box makes sense, right? It's not easy to play what you would normally play in this box and then take the exact same lick and move it into this box. Even though they share the exact same notes, the fingering and the patterns and the way the fretboard is organized makes different licks fit much more easily in different boxes. That's why there are 5 pentatonic shapes that people like to play in. So anyway, going on to this lick, right, what we're doing, once again, okay, so we're starting with an F sharp, an A, and a B. That's a 6, 1, 2. And then hitting that C sharp, which is a 3. So we're essentially just climbing up our scale, starting on the 6. And then we jump to the 1. And that's a real common sound. 1, 5, 6, 1. That's really, really common, especially in this box. And then we slide from the 2 up to the 3, back to the 2, and then 6, 5, 6, 1. Right? Okay, so that was pretty much just straight A major pentatonic. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 1. Right? However, you guys probably know the blues scale is different than the pentatonic scale. If we're thinking the A minor blues scale, instead of just... there's an extra note. You add that blue note in there. And in the minor key, that's the blue note, but we're not in the minor key. Keep that in mind. We're in the major key, right? So the major key, when you're thinking in major, and you got to start thinking in major. You can't keep thinking in minor because it will run you into the same spot that got you to watch this video in the first place. So the blue note in a major key is the flat 3, right? So if we add the flat 3 to this scale, to this one, right, what we end up with is this. So now we're playing A, B, C, C sharp, E, F sharp. And then we play that same set of notes again. A, B, C, C sharp, E, F sharp, A, B, C, C sharp. And you can keep going up, but we're not going to. One of the super common things that gives you that classic blues sound is taking that flat 3 and sliding it into the major 3, into the natural 3. Right, right? You hear that kind of thing a lot. What I'm doing, I'm essentially going from the flat 3 to the 3, from the blue note to the 3, right? That is a really, really common idea. And so we're going to use that idea, except it doesn't just go into the 3, it can also go down into the 2, because it's a note in between 2 of the pentatonic notes. It's in between the 2, and it's in between the 3. The blue note is right there, and it's a very kind of dissonant color tone, but it's really, really nice to go into the 3 or into the 2. Alright? So that's going to be used in lick 2. So here, what we're doing, we're sliding into the 7th fret, into the 2, and then back into the 1. And then doing a quick hammer on to the 6 on the B string. And then we jump back to the 5, and right underneath our 5 is our blue note. And we slide out of that blue note. And then get the 1 with our pinky. That's a tasty lick. That's a classic blues sound. It's probably one you don't have, especially if you keep playing in minor. So make sure you get that one under your fingers. And remember, you can always go into the 2 or into the 3. So that was lick 2. Okay, so just like we added a flat 3 to our standard A major pentatonic, another thing that you can do is add a flat 7, right? Now we're starting to really get that blues sound because the flat 7 is part of that A7 chord. That G natural is part of that A7 chord, and it helps create a very bluesy sound. Now the flat 7, that is part of your minor scale. Right? So what we're actually doing, when we're doing all this, when we're adding these color notes to the major blues, we're actually pulling notes out of the minor blues scale, but we're incorporating them into the major version. So we've taken the C natural, now we're going to take the G natural. And we're going to incorporate that into lick 3. Okay, so that was lick 3. I'm going to slow it down. One more time. Okay, Okay, now if you notice, we're no longer in this box. We're actually in this box. Right? It's very easy if you're in this shape. I mean, it's easy if you're in this shape too, but it is easy if you're in your standard minor shape, but we're not in a minor box. We're in the A major box. However, we're playing what you guys like technically know as your minor shape, right? We're playing the F sharp minor box or the A major box. They're the exact same set of notes. And we're incorporating the G natural. So it's very easy to do that in this box shape, right? So what we're doing, we're starting with the open string. And then right away we're going from flat 3 to 3. So we're incorporating the last idea. And then to the 5, and then this is the key element. Right, so now here, we're playing the 7, flat 7, and then we're bouncing back and forth between the flat 7 and the 6 before going down to the 5 and the flat 3. Alright, and now here we're going to do something different that we haven't talked about, but I will tell you exactly why in a second. Now here, we're climbing down chromatically from E, E flat, D, and then sliding into C sharp. Alright, so now we're doing that, and after the slide into C sharp, we get A right underneath it. And then the 6, 5, flat 3, 2, 1. So the whole lick sounds like this. Now, why am I doing this chromatic thing from E down to D? We haven't even talked about D, and I'm using an E flat. What's going on? Well, once again, I am pulling notes out of the minor blues scale and incorporating them into the major blues scale, right? The minor blues scale, right? A, C, D, E flat, E. Those are the exact notes I'm using, except I'm using them in reverse. E, E flat, D, C, and then I convert that to major, right? So I'm taking a tiny little page out of the minor blues and then going back to major. And that's what I mean by mixing the major blues and the minor blues. That's what the greatest blues players do. They don't necessarily always play like one totally major lick and then one totally minor lick. They mix the two in the midst of a single lick, and that's exactly what we're doing here. So if you were going to do that and you were going to incorporate that into the blues scale that we already talked about, starting on this position, if we're going to incorporate it into that, but we're going to add the flat 5 and maybe the 4. Well, let's actually leave the 4 out for now because it creates a cool sound. We're going to add the flat 7 and the flat 5 though. So. One thing you might notice if you play that scale, right? Check out the tabs. Right? What we have right there, for those of you guys who are like kind of a little more familiar with theory, we have C, C sharp, E flat, E, or D sharp, E. Right? That is the beginning of a diminished half-tone, whole tone scale. And And we're bridging on some like very intense theory territory, but for those of you who are curious to know, that's a very, very common scale that's used over dominant 7 chords. It's much more used in, say, like fusion and jazz and maybe a little bit more like theoretically complicated music than blues, but it's a very cool sound and you can create some amazing sounds with it. Right? Very out there, very strange sounds, right? However, you can also do what we did, which you're basically connecting all those notes, because now you have C, C sharp, E flat, and E, and if you want to throw the 4 in there, what you end up with is 5 half steps in a row. Right? If you wanted to throw that 4 in there. So now you can essentially get this. Right? That's 1, 2, flat 3, 3, 4, flat 5, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. Now you have a like crazy scale with 5 chromatic notes in a row. Right, which creates a very cool, very unique idea if you want to start adding chromaticism to your playing. So that was a roundabout way, but that was, I think, what was that, lick 3? Yeah, that was lick 3. Okay, so now we're doing something a little bit more, I guess, traditional. But we're moving it up in a different position. Here is our root note A this time for lick 4. And now we're taking this A and we're putting our first finger on it, but we're not starting it. We're starting on the B on the 12th fret. And we're bending a whole step. And as we bend, we hold that bend up there. And as that bend is held up there, we grab with our pinky, it's kind of tough, but we grab with our pinky the F sharp 6, the 6, and then the 5. And then we release the bend. So that's like, it's a real common, it's like a country blues idea, but it's also very common in a bunch of different styles of playing. Like that. And then we get the 6 here, and then the 5 there. So. And then we do a little chromatic move. Now, after the 5, we grab the 2, and then slide from the C, the flat 3, into the 3. And then we jump all the way up 5, 1. So that's like. Right? That's a lot more traditional. We're not using all the crazy chromatic notes. We're not using the flat 5. We're not using the flat 7. We're sticking a lot more to your traditional A blues scale. But we're doing it in a different position way up here. So something we haven't talked about is how to incorporate minor blues, the minor blues box, which I told you to stay away from. Right, but if you're gonna play that box, which you probably will because it's very instinctive to you, right? Try to turn it into a major box, right? Or try to turn it into a major sound. And the way you could do that is by taking the flat 3, which is naturally part of it, the C, and bending it into a C sharp. That kind of a thing. And that is what's going to be like sort of the key to this next lick. Right? It's a very standard blues idea. Right? So we start with that. So we take that pinky note, that G, that flat 7, here we are in the minor box, right? Flat 7, we're bending it all the way up to an A. But right as we approach that A, we then shift to a fretted A. And then drop down to the 5, and now we play that flat 3 and bend it into a natural 3. and then back to the A. And then we pull off simple from G to E, flat 7 5, and then to the A again. And now, then we pull off from the 6 to the 5. So it's flat 7 to 5, and then 6 5. And then we take that C natural right under our first finger. And that gives you a way of sort of altering this minor box instead of just going. Instead of doing stuff like that, give it some flavor, bend things, and turn these notes into a major idea. That was lick 5. Okay, so this lick 6, is very similar to the previous lick where we had like all this chromatic stuff. Once again, we're in this version of the A major box. Right, but we're incorporating now the flat 7. Right? So we're gonna go like this. So right away we have the flat 7 as the second note. Remember when I told you that you can easily convert this shape into the A major blues shape with the flat 7? That's why, because it's right next to the F sharp right there. So we're hammering on 6, flat 7, 1, and then on the next string, 2, flat 3, 3. And then we're climbing up 5, 6, and we're doing that same exact idea we did from earlier. Right? It's a very, very common phrase, and I suggest you get used to that one because that's a really useful and very common one. And then after that, hammering on from the flat 3 to the 3 again, and then we play like an A power chord. And then here is a lick that's also real common. Or, right? You've all heard that sound. Right? What I'm doing here, I'm barring my pinky on the top 2 strings, on the root and the 5th, and then I'm taking the B and bending it up a whole step. But I'm not bending it up a whole step before I pluck it. What I'm actually doing, I'm pre-bending it. Which means I'm bending it all the way up, which is tough because you kind of got to know where that whole step sound is. Right? A lot of players won't bend far enough, or they'll bend too far. You got to get used to your guitar and you got to get comfortable with bending. But once you do and you know where that whole step is, you can bend to it without even knowing where it is, without even hearing it. And then you release that bend and play that root note. And that's lick 6. Well, with a little extra stuff at the end. But the idea behind all of this is to say, get yourself out of the minor box. It's killing you, and it's probably making you stagnate, and you've run out of ideas, most likely, because there's just only so much that can be done in this stupid little shape. Yeah, a lot of guys play there. People play all kinds of cool stuff there, right? But that's not the be-all, end-all, you know? If you think about, like I said, the beginning of Texas Flood, right? That's that major shape I showed you today. And hammering on from the flat 3 to the 3. Right? This is intensely common, like all the time. And you're familiar with hearing it, and it will improve your playing, I guarantee. right? So give it a shot, master these shapes, and learn how to mix the major blues with the minor blues. But before you do, get rid of your minor blues playing just temporarily, right? Try it for a week. Try not to play any minor blues licks for a week. Try to throw on an A backing track and only play major licks. Stumble around, fumble around, it's going to be awkward at first because you're not used to visualizing these scales, right? But once you do, and you start getting comfortable, like, oh, 1, 2, 3, that's not that hard. They're right in a row, right? 1, 2, 3 is really easy to play, right? Then you can begin to sort of play 1, 2, flat 3 and 3, and then 5, 6 are right there, right? So you can start to begin to get your feet wet with this major blues idea, and that will take you out of your minor stagnation and bring you somewhere new in your playing. So enjoy it.